Welcome to the Resilience series. I'm Stephanie Weaver, author of the upcoming Migraine Relief Plan Cookbook, which has a theme of resilience and is available for pre-order now. My guest today is Ashleigh Renard. Ashleigh is the author of the best-selling memoir, Swing, a memoir of doing it all, and a sought-after social media coach for writers and companies. Welcome, Ashleigh.
Thank you for having me, Stephanie.
Well, it's great to see you and great to have you here. So I want you to start by telling us about your memoir, Swing. One reviewer described it as having you coined a new genre, the hot self-help book. So let's start there.
Okay, so Swing seems like it's a book that'll be about sex. First scene in the book is me standing in line to use the bathroom at an invite-only sex party in New York City. We had to send in headshots and a relationship bio to get on the guest list. But you quickly see, this is a story of a woman, me, who has taken doing it all to the next level. I was raised in figure skating. My mom was a coach. I was the oldest of 4 children, little classic firstborn overachiever. And it wasn't until I was 10 years and 3 children into my marriage, and actually, it was exactly at that point that I had grown my skating organization to the biggest point. I tripled it in size in just 1 year, that I realized, oh, all of this that I'm reaching for has a hollow foundation. And what I think I'm going to get from that next achievement or that next goal reached doesn't seem to be anything of substance at all.
Yeah. And so you weren't unhappy in your marriage. One of the themes in your work online is how to keep monogamy hot and before you get a divorce. So, things were not going particularly well. How did you and your husband decide to try the swinging lifestyle as a way to fix your marriage?
Yeah, so deciding to go to sex clubs was totally, like, really heavily an act of denial for both of us. Like, we weren't like, oh, we're not in a good place, maybe this would help. We were like, we're so rock solid and we're just such hard workers and stressed in our jobs, because he's a stock trader and I coached figure skating. And, like, if you want like a guaranteed ulcer, like, do one of those things for a week, right? It's like so we thought we were just disconnected because we were stressed with work, honestly. We weren't even at the point where our kids were like all newborns or toddlers and not sleeping. Like, we'd got through that part, and we got through it, and we realized we were feeling worse and worse like every month. So we thought, you know what, we just need to do something fun. We had been like such good little grown-ups. We met right out of college, 21 and 22 years old. And we had our first piece of real estate and mortgage together 11 months later. Like, we were ready to play grown-up. We realized, okay, let's just let loose. Let's just do something that's like frivolous, that's just for enjoyment. And very quickly after going to clubs, I realized, oh no, I'm not just looking for a good time. I'm actually looking for like another man who would give me attention, because golly gee, does that feel good? Even though I'd made jokes before about like, oh yeah, I'll go away for work for 5 days and Manny and I won't even text, and that's totally fine with me. I realized that I had more emotional needs than I had even admitted to myself.
And so you weren't getting them from your marriage, and you were then looking to get them from other people. One of the things that struck me about your book, and it is very sexy, there's no question. There's a lot of sex in it, especially the beginning of it. But I could just feel that you were like trying so hard to make the sex clubs work too, and it was just like, let's go do this, and we're going to be the best at going to the sex clubs. And I was like, whoa, when is she going to get that? Maybe this isn't not. I'm not critiquing that lifestyle, but just like you could tell it wasn't what you needed.
Oh, you can tell. And that's what one of the really fun parts was about writing and rewriting. Because Stephanie, writing is like rewriting and rewriting, right? It's really similar to like creating a program, like choreographing a program with my old skating teams. I would have this vision in my head of like what the program was going to be. And then I had to teach it to 16 teenage girls. And then like over the weeks and months to follow before we competed, it became something totally different, right? Like the creation tells you what it wants to be. So in the book, what like a really, really fun part of the book was writing it and being able to see like, oh my God, this is when the reader is going to be like, she is going off the rails, right? But that I kept going because that's really my personality, like the way I was raised, the parts of my personality that were strengthened in figure skating. Like you don't stop when your body says no. You don't stop when your brain tells you that's enough. Like you're just getting started for the day at that point. So you'll see it's quite humorous. And I'm glad I can laugh about it now because laughing was like the opposite of what I was able to do when I was like going, a million miles an hour and then like crashed. And I realized, wow, my marriage isn't what I thought. My intentions in my business and running my organization are not what I thought. The way I treat myself, I was teaching awareness and mental training to athletes for decades. My first job out of college, I was the assistant strength coach for Team Canada women's volleyball. Okay. So I'm working with Olympians when I'm 21. And then I moved to the US and I start my own skating organizations, like little beginners, like 4 and 5 year olds. So all of this, I had thought that, like self-talk is like my game. Like I can teach that to other people. But it was when I was hitting my bottom that I realized, oh my goodness, the worst relationship in my life is my relationship with myself. 100%.
Yeah. And so one of the techniques that you ended up using was you started writing love letters to yourself as you wished your husband how he was not expressing himself at the time. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had, like I said, I thought I was like a self-talk master for a really long time. I had a regular meditation practice for 10 years at this point. But when things started crumbling all around me, I was like, oh yeah, okay, there are some major things I can't ignore anymore. So in meditation, also my body started acting in very weird ways. It had been like physically resilient as far as like touch wood, like never being injured. I'd never taken a sick day in 20 years, like all of these. And then all of a sudden I have these weird conditions. I'm seeing doctor after doctor. Like I hadn't even been to a sick visit in like, since I moved to the US from Canada after college. And all of a sudden I just have all of these things. So my body physically is telling me like, we've got some problems. And I'm sitting in meditation and I say, what do I need to be healthy again? Like, what do I need? And I hear, just drops right in, people who have meditated before, or even, sometimes we just have those little downloads that drop in when we're doing laundry, said to me, you need someone who loves you better. And I paused and I said, okay, so like another boyfriend on the side, because that didn't seem to work very well. Like, should I get divorced? Should I silence? And this went on for about 6 months. I would be like, please, like the answer, like what would make me better? You need someone who loves you better. And I was like, okay, I heard you the first 72,000 times. Like, and then one day, seriously, one day when I was like, the divine can fuck off, because I was like, you're giving me half messages. Like, don't even give me any. And it's you. And Stephanie, I just started laughing. I was sitting there meditating and I just started laughing, because I was like, oh, well, I can do that. Like, like all I need is an assignment and then I will work my way to the finish line. But just like this this like nondescript, message was really quite annoying to me. And that is the day that I started writing myself love letters. And I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to write myself, because always a little extreme, like always, even in like self-love, I'm like, I'm going to write myself a love letter every day for a year. And it was a leap year. Actually, it was February 29th. Was the day that I decided this, that I heard that in meditation. I was like, oh, well, it's going to be 366 days. Yep. Right. I was like, not only am I going to do it for a year, I picked one of the longest years possible. Anyway, the longest year possible. But I didn't even have to do it for that long to notice differences. Like taking, like I said, I'm really good with an assignment. And then I would write myself like 6 love letters a day. Sometimes they would be like on a Post-it note. You know what I mean? Or like a text that I would send myself in my phone, because you can actually text yourself. That would be like, you did a really great job keeping your patients at the library today. Like you really did. And you were really kind to that mom with the little one. Thank you. But they did, like you said, they started with like, dear Ashleigh, love Manny, like my husband, saying the things that I wish he would say to me. And I talk about this a lot, and this is a part of my book that a lot of people come back to me with questions about. And I want to be clear, this isn't about pretending everything is fine. This isn't about gaslighting yourself. This is about getting clear on what you want, because I think that shows us what we need. We're hyper resilient in our pursuit of not needing too much, or not feeling too much, or not burdening other people, or not taking the rest we need, and not, taking the time we need in situations or projects. So what I really got from this was like, holy moly, I need a lot of affirmation. I need a lot of support. I had prided myself from the time I was really little that someone of maturity doesn't need anything and doesn't ask for anything. Like, to have no needs, I thought was like really grown up. And I was one of those little kids that people would say, oh, you're such a mature little girl. And then I would like take that. Yeah, I was pretty shut down. Actually, I have a scene in my book where it shows by the time I was 7, I was exhausted. I was exhausted by the time I was 7, because I thought, oh God, like life is so hard just because I'm not a grown-up yet. Like I don't have the agency to be fully independent, and wanting and needing other things from people when I'm not sure if I'm going to get it, or I'm not even sure what the reaction is going to be if I ask for it, is really hard and tiring. So the letters were the first glimpse I had in decades, right? Probably by the time I was 7, I had kind of shut down like what I really need, because it was annoying even to me, into what I would really love from my husband, what I would really love from my kids, what I would really love from my coworkers. What, if I had skating parents that were all really self-aware and able to like, handle conflict resolution in a gracious, compassionate way, what I would like them to say to me when they're upset that both of their daughters are alternates again this year. Because I didn't feel good about that either, but it was the reality of competitive sport. So yeah, I took the letters in a lot of different directions, and it helped me fill myself up to a point where I was no longer giving ultimatums or feeling like desperate in what I wanted for my marriage. I was able to, and there was a lot of therapy, one-on-one therapy in this too, to get to a point where I was like, oh, maybe my next greatest spiritual step, the real like slap in the face to my ego, is to get divorced. Like that wasn't my plan, clearly, because I got married, right? Like when you get married, the plan is to stay married. But I thought, okay, all right, like maybe that is the next path of most adventure and most learning for all of us, because we did a lot of things together so well, right? Financially, we were always super responsible. We were great partners with our kids. Hands-on. He was a hands-on parent. Like we were both there, but I didn't want to model for our children that like, either overtly or subconsciously, like, oh yeah, this is the standard that you should have for an intimate partnership as an adult. I wanted to say, even if I never found anyone else and he never found anyone else to have a long-term relationship with, to say to the kids, like, mommy and daddy, we did a lot of great things together, but we could not figure out this part. Like, we couldn't, like, we're more like friends and business partners and roommates and co-parents, but we couldn't figure out like this emotional intimacy. And we hope we learn it from you guys. Like, if if you guys can figure that out, then we can learn from you. And when I went to my husband and said that, like, maybe we've done all the good work we can do, like, together, like in this arrangement, maybe the next thing that we can do to be like the best parents we can be to the boys, because we have 3 kids, and the best we can be to ourselves is to do this separately. And Stephanie, so just so everyone knows, Manny's Greek Orthodox, grew up in a really traditional Greek Orthodox household. So like that story is woven through swing, but I have joked, it's not funny. This joke is not funny. I had joked with him since we met that he was trained his whole life to ignore the sound of a woman's voice. All right. Okay. But that day, Stephanie, it was like the mute button, the finger was taken off the mute button. And I was like, okay, so, we got to figure out what we're going to do moving on. And he was like, wait, what? And it was kind of annoying because I was sort of excited, like, okay, I'm going to divorce at 39. And then he was like all into making it work. And I was like, oh, this is it made me feel a little itchy on the inside. But it made me slow down a little bit in like the exit strategy or the like move him into a condo apartment strategy. And I was like, okay, wait, because he had shifted. I think everybody knows this feeling, like with family members or especially an intimate partnership, when there's like a thing that you would love for your partner to do differently and you bring it to them time and time again, and then they do it differently for like 48 hours and then it's back to the old pattern. So I was like, all right, like how long do we got for this? And it kept going. And then it up leveled a bit. And then he started seeing my therapist. And then I was like, well, you know what? This is actually going in a really good direction. Okay. And so Stephanie, I still don't, I fully, truly believe that there's one of the things about perfectionism that got me so twisted up and so tied down for so long was believing there was like the one best way to do anything. And it was always the highest fucking level of difficulty, always. Well, you're not a great mom unless you have a ton of kids. You're not blah, 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 unless blah, blah, blah. Okay. So with our marriage, I wasn't like, oh yeah, we're doing the best things stay together. Cause I was already like, no, I don't know if we are, but let's see where this takes us. So the reason I'm grateful we stayed together is not, so we can keep our kids in one home and not. The reason I'm grateful we stayed together is because our relationship is fucking incredible now. Like, it's not like when we were first dating or anything. It's like we are 2 completely different people now, 20 years later. And I like who both of us is so much more. And we're able to have like a partnership. And I think in that day, his fear of being vulnerable and even feeling his own emotions became smaller than his fear of his family not being in the shape that he like really, really liked, like for comfort and security and just like, all 5 of us and the pets are just here every day. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's a bit of a pack animal that way. I tell him all the time because, he's half Greek. Yeah. Like he really is. He loves just seeing his whole family there together. So that's the reason that I'm grateful that we stayed together and grew and shifted. And it was like awkward as hell so often in this process. But because we really are we have a relationship that I never thought I was going to have in this incarnation. I thought not this time, not this lifetime.
Well, and to get back to your gaslighting comment from earlier, his response could have been, okay, let's get a divorce. Right. Yes. So you had to figure out where you needed to go, what you needed. You were able to express it. And, it's awesome that your partner was able to hear you and say, well, wait a second. No, no, no. I'm willing to do some work here, and actually was willing to do work. It wasn't just surface. So that's been, yeah. And it's great to see how you've translated that, not just into the book, but into the messages that you put out on social media about, they're always very funny and amusing. Like, before you get a divorce, try this. But they're all grounded in your experience. And I think that's why you have resonated so much with people. It's not just that you talk about vibrators and lubricant and stuff, which is also fun. But it's because it's all grounded in this experience that you've had, and you've been so open with people about this that I think, your authenticity and your vulnerability really makes it okay for people to then DM you and say, well, I'm actually a virgin and I'm worried about having sex for the first time. What do I? So it's been fascinating to watch, because I've known you kind of since this process started.
Yep.
And it's been really cool to see that. So how do you think resilience played into your transfer from being a full-time figure skating coach to being a writer and social media coach?
Yeah. Okay. So part of the way that I'm resilient is like my discipline, which is like it was either an innate part of my personality, or it was trained and strengthened in skating, probably a little bit of both. But my ability to just put one foot in front of the other, step by step, take a big project and go, all right, so today, this is what I need to do. Because coming from, this was 2019 that I retired from skating and came into writing, and I knew nobody and I knew nothing. So I felt like lonely and dumb for a while, but I was like, you know what? I can put my head down and I can work. I know that I can work, and I know that I can learn. What I hadn't realized yet was one of my superpowers that I've really honed in skating was, from the time I learned something new to the time I know how to teach it is 5 seconds. And I didn't realize that. So when I came into writing, I felt this pull pretty quickly, probably like a year into like start pulling community together for writers, and to start together figuring out some more tools, like for using social media, for really connecting with audience members directly. Because I saw, okay, coming into this new field in publishing, the people with the most creativity and the greatest gifts have the least amount of agency. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel right, when like the talent was really the reason for everything in skating. It just felt off. And I thought, okay, I've seen bloggers, I've seen influencers just like go like to the moon with their goals on social media, just online in all the ways. What if writers, and these writers I met right away, Stephanie, right? You were one of the first people I met, like have something to say, like so beautifully and so meaningful. And I thought, what if those people have the tricks, tools, strategy that these other people do, like, and we could amplify their message. So it was like that one foot in front of the other. And then I think my determination to not repeat the same mistakes and not stay in the same behavior that really allowed me to run myself into the ground over and over, like, several times a season with coaching skating, that I was like, no, I'm going to go into this new field, but actually I'm going to keep like health and fun and enjoyment, like all like center. And I tell people now, even when I'm working with clients, I don't do any work unless it's fun and easy. I love to work. It's my favorite thing, but is this fun and easy? Then this isn't the right project for me. So bringing that and making that center helped me see parts of myself that I don't think I would have seen if I would have stayed in the same field that I had been in all my life.
Yeah, that's great. So this is always the last question that I ask everyone, and I love asking it because I get different answers. So what are some self-care resilient strategies that you personally find most helpful?
Yeah. Okay. I think the greatest thing I've learned about resilience over the last few years is tenderness for myself. And whether I made a mistake, whether I offended with a post or a comment, whether I feel like I didn't do a good enough job for a client because they're not getting the results, all of those places that I would have doubled down on what I expected for myself. I had this great strategy. Every time in skating, Stephanie, every time we didn't meet a goal, I would lower the bar for other people and raise it for myself. Because I would say, okay, this must be why we're not doing it, right? Instead of saying like, okay, we're both, I would always do that with coaching partners, with my own marriage, everything. So I've started to go like, okay, wait, what if I empowered that other person to do more? Like, what if I did? What if I, how would that look as far as leadership? Instead of just trying to take the reins and like pick up everyone at once. And now my kids are 14, 12, and 8. And I mean, I got paid to tell other people's kids what to do for decades before I ever became a mom. So I'm not really shy in like coaching my children. Actually, when my littlest was 6, he said to me one day, "What are you trying to do, Mom? Be my life coach?" And I was like, well, yeah, like that's like my job, basically. But part of resilience for me now is like considering that maybe the way I lead, maybe the way that I really support other people is by giving them the encouragement, giving them the tools so that they can continue to expand. Because then as they do, that lifts me up in such a way. And my hands aren't so full all the time, because that's one of the things about perfectionism. You're in fear constantly about, what ball am I going to drop today?
Yeah, and I can relate to that so much. When we were redoing our house, well, now 20 years ago, I kept hurting myself. I kept like falling down and stuff. And I had this chiropractor who was really great at, kind of had a connection to the universe. And he said, the messages are just going to keep getting louder if you don't listen to them. And he's like, today you fell off the porch and broke your arm. Maybe you want to start listening to the messages. And I was like, yeah, maybe I do. But I so related to your story, not that we ever tried the swinging lifestyle, but just that drive to push myself. And it's exhausting. It really is truly exhausting. So I want to thank you so much for being here today and sharing your work and your story. Please visit ashleighrenard.com to learn more about her upcoming Keeping It Hot workbook. Get on her mailing list and join her amazing community. You can order Swing wherever you like to buy books, and we do encourage you to use independent bookstores if you can. Check out the other episodes of the Resilience series on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Follow me at SWeaverMPH to learn more about my upcoming book, The Migraine Relief Plan Cookbook, which is due out this summer and is available for pre-order now. Thanks so much for watching.